What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards, old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. This week on Not Your Average Meta, we're bringing you our Phyrexia All-Will-Be-One Precon Showdown. This is also the first game on the channel not featuring Justin, who had to leave in order to fulfill his military duties. He leaves the channel second in career wins at 2069 and number 1 in consecutive games played at 89. We wish him the best of luck and look forward to playing with him again in the future. We'd also like to shout out our second full-time channel sponsor for Season 3 of the Hobby Horse. If you're ever in the Central Illinois area, be sure to stop in and check out the store as well as saying hi to Martin. This week's Toxic matchup features Martin the Birthday Boy playing the Rebellion Rising Precon deck being led by Neyali Sun's Vanguard, Gavin playing the new Elesh Norn Mother of Machines, Foggraw playing the new Ezuri Stalker of Spheres, and Eric making his first appearance this season playing the Corrupting Influence Precon being led by Ixhel, Scion of Atraxa. Now that we have our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Martin plays a tap Fury Calm Snarl, Gavin plays a Plains, Fog plays a Forest and casts an Elvish Mystic. Eric plays a tap Sand Steep Citadel. Martin plays a Plains and casts a Staff of the Storyteller, which creates him a 1/1 spirit and adds a counter to his staff. Gavin plays another Plains to cast a Marble Diamond. Fog plays an island that pays to cast a Beast Within in order to destroy Gavin's diamond, giving him a beast token. Eric plays a Shinedown Snow, revealing a Plains, then casts an Acreclaw Mirror. Martin plays a Mountain that casts a Felwar Stone. He then goes to combat and hits Fog for 1 damage. Gavin plays a Plains to cast a Drannith Magistrate. He then goes to combat, swinging his Beast at Fog for 3 more damage. Fog plays another island for turn to cast an Adaptive Spore Singer, targeting his elf, giving him +2/+2 in Vigilance, before he then goes to combat, attacking Gavin for 3 damage. Eric plays a Forest, then goes to combat, swinging his Mirror Gavin for 1 poison counter, then casts a Skews before passing. On his instep, Martin pays to draw a card using his staff. Martin draws for turn, then plays another Plains before casting Kimba's Banner, creating him a 2/2 Rebel token. This then puts another counter on his staff before he then swings a Spirit at Gavin for 1 damage. Gavin just draws and passes. Fog plays another Forest, then casts a Kodama's Reach, putting an island into play and a Forest into his hand. Eric plays a tapped Crow's Verge, then goes to combat, swinging his Mirrored Fog, who blocks with his Spore Singer. Eric then eats it with his Skews, which puts a counter on his ears and gains him a life. On his instep, Martin pays to draw another card with his staff. Martin draws for turn and casts a Phantom General, before he then goes to combat, swinging both his creatures at Gavin. Gavin then blocks the Rebel with his Magistrate while he takes the remaining 2 damage. Eric then eats the Magistrate with his Skews. Gavin draws and then casts a land tax for turn. Fog plays a Force for turn to cast his commander Ezuri, before he then pays into the ETB to proliferate 2 times. He then proliferates Gavin's poison counters and draws 2 cards. Eric plays a Planch for turn to cast a Viridian Corruptor, which he uses to destroy Martin's banner. He then adds insult to injury by attacking Martin for 1 poison counter while he attacks Fog for 4 damage. Martin plays a Mountain for turn that goes to combat, attacking Eric for 2 damage in the air. On his upkeep, Gavin triggers his land tax, going to get 2 lands from his library before he then draws for turn. Gavin then plays a Skyclave Apparition, which he uses to exile Eric's Skews, and in response, Eric eats a card from Fog's graveyard. Fog plays a Force for turn and pays 2 life to cast Tezzeret's Gambit. He then uses this to proliferate his opponent's poison counters before he then draws 3 cards. He then casts a Rampant Growth to go get an island from his library and passes. Eric plays an Evolution Sage before he then swings his Mirrored Fog, who responds by destroying it with the Nature's Claim, which gains Eric 4 life. Eric then plays a Temple of Malady for turn, scrying a card at the bottom of his library. On his instep, Martin casts White Sun Zenith where X is equal to 3. He then creates 3 2/2 cat tokens and adds counters to his staff before he then shuffles his Zenith back into his library. Martin draws for turn and casts a Mind Stone before tapping out to cast his commander, Neyali. Martin then swings his Spirit at Eric, his 3 cats at Gavin, and his Rebel at Fog. Gavin blocks 1 cat with his Beast token, then everybody takes the rest of their damage. Martin then exiles the top card of his library before passing turn. Gavin plays a Plains for turn to cast an Esper Sentinel in a teleportation circle. He then flickers his Apparition on his end step, giving Eric a Spirit token, before he then exiles Eric's Evolution Stage. Fog plays an island for turn to cast a Watchful Blister Zoa who enters with an oil counter. He then casts Steady Progress, which he uses to proliferate his opponent's poison counters, proliferate the oil counters on his Blister Zoa, and then draws 2 cards. Eric pays to crack his Corrosion Verge in order to go get 2 Plains cards from his library to put in play tapped. Before he then pays 4 life to help cast a Norn's Annex. On his end step, Martin pays to draw a card with his staff. Martin draws for turn and casts Jorkadim the Prevailer. This then pumps up his team even more before he goes to combat swinging a Spirit at Eric, 2 cats to Gavin, and a cat and his rebel at Fog. Gavin blocks with the Sentinel, while Fog blocks each creature with 2 of his creatures. Everybody then takes your damage, and Fog draws 2 cards off his Blister Zoa, dying. Gavin plays a Mirror of the Skyrim for turn before he then pays to cast his commander, Elesh Norn. He then flickers his Apparition, giving Eric another Spirit token, which he then gives him 2 triggers which he uses to exile both of Martin's mana rocks. In response, Martin pays to draw a card with his staff. Fog plays a Force for turn to cast a Venerated Rot Priest and then expand the Spheres, which he uses to look at the top 6 cards of his library and put 2 lands into play tapped. He then casts Encouraging Crisis, which triggers his Rot Priest, giving Eric a poison counter. He then adds a +1/+1 counter onto his Rot Priest before he then proliferates his opponent's poison counters. Eric swings a Spirited Fog, who responds by bouncing it with a Serum Snare. This then has him proliferating the poison counters on his opponents once again. Eric then casts a Phyrexian Rebirth, which destroys all the creatures. This then gives Martin 2 Spirit tokens and creates Eric a 13/13 Phyrexian Horror token. Martin draws for turn that swings one of his Spirits at Fog for 2 damage. On his upkeep, Gavin triggers his land tax to go get 2 lands from his library before he then draws for turn and plays the Plains. He then taps out to recast his commander, Elesh Norn. Fog casts a Frantic Search, which has him drawing 2 cards, discarding 2 cards, and then untapping 3 lands. He then casts a Tainted Observer, a Tireless Provisioner, and then a Core Prowler. Eric pays to cast his commander Ixhel before he then casts a Glistening Sphere. He then swings his Horror token at Fog, who blocks with his Prowler. This then is Fog proliferating his opponent's poison counters when he dies. On his end step, Eric gets the top card of each of his opponent's libraries that are corrupted. On the end of his turn, Martin also pays to once again cast White Sun Zenith in order to create 2 cat tokens. Martin then draws for turn and passes. On his end step, Gavin pays to evoke Solitude, getting 2 triggers. He then uses these to exile Eric's commander and Fog's Tainted Observer, which has each of them gaining 2 life. On his upkeep, Gavin triggers his land tax to go get 2 lands from his library before he then draws for turn. He then taps out to cast Ascend to Avarice, where X is equal to 5. Gavin then returns a Sentinel to play, as well as his Apparition, which he uses to exile Martin's staff and Fog's Provisioner. Martin then pays to draw 1 last card off his staff before it gets exiled. Gavin then also returns his Solitude back into play, which he uses to exile Eric's token, gaining him 11 life, and 1 of Martin's tokens. On his end step, Gavin flickers his Solitude to then exile Martin's 2 Spirit tokens. Fog draws and then casts a Contagion Engine before he then pays to activate the engine. This then proliferates his opponent's poison counters 2 times, taking Gavin out of the game. Eric plays a Sungrass Parry before casting an Ichor Rats, giving each player a poison counter. He then pays to recast his commander a second time, which gets him the top card of Martin's library on his end step. Martin then casts a Generous Gift to destroy the Contagion Engine, giving Fog an Elephant token. Martin draws for turn to cast a Mentor of the Meek. Fog pays to recast his commander and then pays into the ETB, which proliferates his opponent's poison counters 2 more times. In response to this, Martin pays to deal 4 damage to Fog's face before dying. Fog then draws 2 cards and casts Smell Fear in order to proliferate Eric's counters 1 last time and take him out with poison damage. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.